Nick Lunch. I live in Oxford. I'm a husband and father of two, Irie and Delilah, and this is my home, my garden in East Oxford. Well, these shoes were actually a gift from my sister, Cecilia. Cecilia used to work for a shoe company called Pozu, and Pozu specialises in biodegradable shoes, so eco-friendly, earth-friendly shoes. So one of the things I remember the company said in their website was that the shoes are so green that you can plant flowers in them once you've finished using them. And so that's what I've done today. I got these boots, I don't know exactly when. I think it was around 2007, 2008, and I was involved in a project called Conversations with the Earth, which was a multimedia project working with indigenous people around the world, particularly living in very important rich in biodiversity regions and different ecosystems. And the idea was to amplify indigenous voices on climate change and to bring these voices to the Copenhagen climate talks in 2009. Over 20 years I've been a filmmaker, but a kind of unusual kind of filmmaker. I never actually do any filmmaking myself. I'm a facilitator. I facilitate groups and community groups. I help them to make their own videos. Always had a connection with indigenous groups, and I was lucky enough to teach and live in an indigenous community in Nepal when I was 18 with the Yolmu people, and that had a very profound impact on me. Living with a group of people who seemed to be much more living in harmony with their environment and living a much more spiritually rich life than I felt many of us had here in the West where I grew up. I worked in partnership with a professional photographer who took beautiful portraits of indigenous elders and captured their stories, and I worked with a great indigenous network called Land is Life. And our role was to work and support some communities to set up community media hubs where they were making videos documenting the impacts of climate change initially and making strong messages to the world, particularly to the world's leaders, to be shown at the Copenhagen climate talks. And each community sent some representatives to that conference. These were people who'd never had passports before, let alone they'd never travelled on aeroplanes. So they were the real people who really lived the real life, really in contact with the earth. And amongst them was a healer, a nearly 80-year-old healer from Peru, Quechua shaman. We had people from Kenya, the Maasai, the Baka Pygmies from Cameroon were with us, the Kuna people from Panama, people from the Cordillera region in the Philippines as well were with us, plus many others, even some Inuit people from Canada. So it was around that time that myself and my colleagues were working with these communities, going to visit them. They were inviting us to come, and we would spend typically 2 or 3 weeks with them, teaching them how to make videos using the participatory video methodology, which is all teaching the skills through games and experiential games. So it's really simple. It's designed for people who've never touched a video camera before, and also for people maybe who are non-literate. So we can work with all kinds of people from different backgrounds. I wore these boots in many diverse places on my journeys and my travels. So I'm not sure exactly in miles, but probably the place that felt the furthest away was the Arctic, northern Canada, a place called Cambridge Bay. And that was working with the Inuit people. So it was a very beautiful but desolate landscape. But it was also a very sad, tragic place. While I was there, a young man in his early 20s, a young father, had committed suicide, and there was a wake when I was there in his memory, and I remember very strong memories of speaking with the people about how they felt, their sense of hopelessness and disconnection with their culture, but at the same time seeing the important work they were doing to reconnect with their language, with helping their young people to reconnect with the elders and with the traditional ways. And the video process kind of helped support that. And I took these boots, I was wearing these boots in the Andes of Peru when I went to visit my friend Maya, who was born in a Quechua village and her parents are anthropologists. She's half German, half Peruvian, and she's a filmmaker. Through her connections with the people, we were able to set up this one of our community hubs, media hubs, with her friends, and made films about the connection to the Apus, the holy mountains in the Andes. And again, working with young people, training them in video skills so that they become like the facilitators. They're the ones who go around the community interviewing the elders and others in the community about the issues, about traditional culture, traditional practices, for example, herbal knowledge, how to heal using plants. All these things are really under threat. These traditional practices are really under threat as the evangelical Christians start to dominate these areas, and they teach that these traditional practices and beliefs are devil worship. In Peru, in Quechua, they call participatory video Seeing Beauty. They've renamed it in their language, Seeing Beauty. Conversations with the Earth has become now a project I'm really proud of, because it's actually led by the communities. They decide what they make the films about. They exchange films with each other. There's a strong solidarity amongst these different indigenous groups that never had any contact with each other before. Like, we're so used to seeing videos that are slick and kind of contrived, and these are the very opposite. They're very raw, very pure, straight from the heart. Because, you know, it's not me that's going to Peru and then filming an elder talking about her knowledge with herbs. It's the granddaughter who's filming her grandmother talking about the knowledge and the herbs. A sense of seriousness about it, and that this is something important that we're documenting. And then the film is then shown in the evenings, community screening, so everyone can get a chance to see the grandmother talking to her granddaughter in that very intimate way. You can check if information is correct by having it all very open and transparent and overt in these community screenings, and then the screenings themselves become incredible spaces for dialogue. So this idea of building empathy and understanding, and from that, what we've seen happen over and over again is that people come up with their own solutions to the problems. They're not looking for outsiders to come and rescue them or to come and save them with this or that. They just realise that they have all the knowledge already and they can find their own solutions. We work a lot with the development agencies and with the UN. We have to draw a line as well who we work for, who we don't work for. Do we work for corporate social responsibility? Because the work we do is co-opted by them to make them look good. So it's really a difficult dilemma that we have to think about a lot. I've been around the world, and working with communities who have just been they've had too much development workers coming in and facilitating projects, participatory kind of approaches, maps, and then nothing actually happens. So maybe the approach is well-meaning and it's participatory, and more and more development workers are using these participatory approaches to listen to communities, but then if nothing actually happens, nothing changes, then people very soon get very fed up. At least with participatory video, we can fall in the same trap, but it's actually bringing something really new and tangible, like a tangible skill that often people have never had access to before. And it's, even with a short period of working together, it's quite, I think, can be quite valuable to hold a mirror up to a person or to a group of individuals or a community through the video camera. How often do we have a chance to really think about our reality, our daily reality, especially if we're just surviving all the time? But this is a little space where people can reflect and maybe through that they can find ways to make some small adjustments or improvements to their lives. I certainly walked many miles around Oxford in these. I travel everywhere on foot and by bike, and that's something I really appreciate about Oxford. It's a really human scale city, small enough that you can bump into people you know every day, so it kind of makes me feel at home. And in many of the countries and places I work, there are people here in Oxford from those places. I've been living here for over 20 years, so I know a lot of people here from different times in my life. I used to live on a boat in North Oxford, on a canal boat, and made a lot of my closest friends during that time. I'm still in contact with now. Everyone needs to feel part of a community in some way, have good friendships that last over many years. That's what I'm appreciating as I get older, is the long friendships. Shelter is really important. Safe kind of place to live, where you can put down some roots, even if it's not forever. But I feel really sorry for a lot of my friends don't own their house. I'm really lucky that I live in a house that we own. Yeah, I feel very fortunate. It's like a lottery, isn't it? Wherever you end up being born. But I also have travelled and met people in so many different, from such different backgrounds, so many different places. And I know that the spirit of freedom is something. It's not something you're born into. It's something you're born with. It's inside your heart. It's your attitude to life. And that's another thing that we all need is mentors, elders that encourage us, that support us. And I can see, our society is really sick. We need help, and a lot of us are really disconnected from the land and from nature. And that's why we're not able to make the changes that we need to make in our society. I think I'm a voyager. I'm a traveller. So I have a restlessness inside me, which is difficult sometimes as a dad and a husband. Where sometimes here in Oxford I can feel restless. I get very worked up about inequality, injustice, and I find it hard to just switch off and relax. So there's certain things that I know I've learnt now. It's taken me a long time, but at the age of 45 I've learnt of certain things I really need in my life to keep me happy and balanced. Because I have experienced depression and burnout. I'd like you to understand that it's really important for me to have daily access to nature, and that these shoes can take me into the woods, into the meadows, along the river, in the park. It doesn't have to be far away. Also music. These shoes have done a lot of dancing. I'm of the generation that grew up with the rave culture in the early 90s. When I was a student up in Leeds, I was a raver, big raver. I helped to organise parties, and I used to go to a lot of illegal raves, particularly ones in the countryside. I really enjoyed it, but also in the cities, squat parties and that kind of thing. And I still love to stay up all night and dancing. And I went to a dance music festival recently, actually, with some friends, and it was just fantastic. Outdoors in the woods. I feel like I want to bring the work I've been doing around the world, bring it home, and do more work here in Oxford again. I started my kind of professional life with participatory video working in Oxford for the first 5 years in the late 90s, on the council estates around Oxford with kids. And since then, most of our work's been international. And now I want to bring it back and do more work here in Oxford. So I feel very much in a transition time right now. So it's a good time to be handing on these boots.